You're listening to the Career Diaries with Brianna or Sherry, where each week we laugh and learn with industry experts, talk through the highs and lows of their career journeys, and unlock the secrets to career success in any field. Email bri@careerdiariespodcast.com. That's BRI@careerdiariespodcast.com with your burning career questions to get them answered on the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Diaries podcast. Today, I'm very excited to introduce you to Amy Kawahara. She is the senior producer at Expedia Group. How you doing today, Amy?
I'm doing well. Can't ask for any better weather in California. How about you?
Yeah, I know, same. It's finally changing back to the way it should be. And it's like I pay taxes to live in California for this nice weather, so I better get it.
Mm-hmm. June gloom no more.
Exactly. So yeah, getting some beach time in, which is good. What part of California are you in?
So I live in LA, West Hollywood, but I grew up in Huntington Beach, so Southern California girl through and through.
Okay, I lived in West Hollywood for a year. But I was like between there and Mexico for the year. It was like sort of tail end of COVID, but
Yeah.
I miss it there.
Yeah, I love being there and like on the weekend just parking and walking to everything, but it's a pain in the ass to get out of. It's so central that there's no freeway offshoot. So I'm sure getting to the airport was annoying for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was hell leaving that region in general. You can't get anywhere. Um, it's great if you want to stay there.
Yeah, so many good bars, restaurants, and like friends in walking distance. So can't complain.
Yeah. LA in general is like that. So you have a really interesting career as a producer. Now when I hear producer, the first thing I think of is like reality TV producer, because that's like the content I consume. Uh,
Yeah.
you mainly produce commercials, right? Is that true?
Yeah. So right now I work for Expedia Group in-house marketing. So doing all of their broadcast commercials, digital commercials. But yeah, I mean, most people, when I say producer, they have no idea. They think I'm, yeah, part of like the Real Housewives crew, like following around, like urging people to get into fights or whatever. But it honestly couldn't be more opposite than that.
Yeah, your version is, I assume, much more highbrow than convincing people to argue.
I mean, that could be fun too, but yeah, no, I try to keep the peace on my sets more or less.
Yeah, all fair. I've never interviewed a producer before, so I'm really excited to chat with you about your career. And for anyone listening, I think that they can take away a lot from this conversation, mainly just, interest in an area they're not used to sort of learning about. And also, I think with a career this fast paced, I think you probably face a lot of challenges and sort of have that work ethic that a lot of people strive for. So I'm curious to learn more about that. So just to level set, can you sort of go a little bit deeper on what you do in like a day to day?
Yeah, so basically producing in my world, I would say is like 90% problem solving, 10% babysitting. I call my creatives like it's like herding cats, but basically we're with the ideas from inception all the way through delivery and like final broadcast and seeing everything on your TV, but we'll get briefed by the business comms team. The creatives will go away, think of the ideas, the concepts, the strategies. They'll come back with some scripts, and I'll kind of look over it with them and start thinking in my head like, okay, who would be a good director for this, who would be a good actor or actress for this, who would be a good editor, colorist, visual effects. So you start kind of bringing their idea to life. So it goes from paper when they sell it through to our leadership, and then helping them realize the vision. Like, where are we going to shoot this? What are we highlighting? Who would be the best partners to make this happen? What the best vendors? And so as a producer, I'm with the project from beginning to end. So you're kind of the consistent piece throughout all of it, along with your creative team. And all the way until, you see your ad airing during the NBA finals or something like that. So it's pretty cool, but it can be a long process. So I would say our average times for a commercial are like 3 to 4 months. So people think, these little 30-second spots, oh, you should just be able to like turn those out so quickly. But if you're doing, a high caliber of work and working with the best in the business, it can actually take a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the lead time and all that planning is really where it would go in, right? Like getting these people available on this day and negotiating with these actors, et cetera. I'm impressed
Exactly.
that out in 3 to 4 months. That feels fast.
Yeah, well, like if you think of, TV or feature or anything longer, it takes longer than that for sure. But, I come from a news broadcast background. So I'm producing the news, which is live TV every single day, every day of a product at the end of the day. So coming from that world, this seems relatively slower paced to me.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's really interesting. What's a colorist?
They're the person that like after you shoot the film, then you go in, you edit it, and then when you have your kind of quote unquote almost final product, you pass it off to a colorist who applies a grade. So that could be, bringing out brightness, darkening shadows, giving it kind of like a grainier feel, making it more, saturated like a Wes Anderson type of film. So they really help bring like color, character, and like the mood, I would say, to a film or commercial in my case.
No idea that existed. You should talk to the Game of Thrones colorist.
Yes, it was very dark, that vibe.
I can't see shit. All right, cool. So I want you to name drop a little bit. You mentioned briefly that, seeing your ad in the Super Bowl spot, et cetera. Like, what are some of the bigger like companies and people you've worked with in your career?
Well, I feel kind of douchey saying this, but so I used to work for Media Arts Lab as a producer, which is the agency that does all Apple's work. So I think my first probably like big name that everybody would know that I got to work with was I did a iPhone spot with The Rock, and it was supposed to be having theory features. So I've had the pleasure of working with The Rock, FK Twigs, comedians like Barinholtz, Sam Richardson. Most recently, I did some hotels.com work with musicians. So Anderson Paak, Jelly Roll, JT from the City Girls, and something near and dear to my heart, I did some work with the NBA. So I got to work with reigning MVP Nikola Jokić and Jimmy Butler, which was super fun. And then when you have amazing creative, you get to work with some of the most amazing directors in the business as well. Oscar nominated, Oscar winning directors like Spike Jones, Alexander Payne, Derek C. in France. So you kind of get to work with the best of the best and be pulled into this cool world that you otherwise would have no, it would not be within reach.
What was Jokic like?
He is like exactly like you see on TV, just gave no fucks, but showed up on time, wanted to wear what he wanted to wear. And, when we were in between takes and stuff, he'd be sitting kind of on the sidelines, holding his phone, watching his horse racing and just like being part of the crew. So it's super funny. He's exactly as advertised.
I'm dead. Not the horse racing.
Yes. And then on in between takes to him and Peyton Watson would be like bopping around or singing or cracking jokes. So he's a vibe and a good one.
Love to hear it. So for Expedia Group, do you produce commercials specifically for Expedia, or is this like a media agency that produces commercials for anybody?
So we're in-house. We have a whole in-house marketing arm, but Expedia owns Expedia, hotels.com, Verbo, Trivago. They have a huge portfolio. And then they also do a lot of partnerships. So like we have a partnership with the NBA and hotels.com, which I was able to be a part of. Then we sponsor different teams like Arsenal and Liga and the Mexican national team for soccer or football, and then a lot of obviously travel partnerships. So, Travel Canada, we've done stuff with them, Kissimmee, Florida, just various partnerships. So, I mean, it really runs the gamut of types of advertising we could do and who we partner with.
Okay, so you have say network and exposure. That's awesome. Um, so at what point did you sort of realize like production is for me? I love this.
Yeah, so I would say it kind of was a slow build up, but in college I majored in broadcast journalism because I always loved writing and I thought that was one of the only things I was actually good at. And so in some of our classes, you have to put on actual news broadcasts like once a week. And we would all rotate taking turns, being the anchor or the weather man or woman or the director or the producer or the writer. And so I learned real quickly after watching those back, I did not want to do anything on camera. I hate seeing my face and hearing my voice. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I was like, I like being behind the camera. That's for me. That's where I'm at. And then I think it just dawned on me, one of the only things I'm good at is kind of telling people what to do. And that's literally a producer's role. But, even in my friend group, I'm always the one like planning trips, wrangling everybody, getting the itinerary together, making sure everything's booked, making sure everyone has a good time, making sure people show up where they're supposed to when they're supposed to. So kind of like real life translating into professional life. And it kind of all grew from there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's interesting that you sort of mirror that with your real life. I think a lot of people in their careers will overlook their day-to-day skills and not see them as something that can apply to a career. But I actually think it's the opposite. Like things that you're naturally good at, there's always a job out there that coincides with it.
Totally. And I mean, don't get me wrong, when I clock out for the day, I'm like, I don't want to make any decisions. Someone else tell me where they want to eat or what they're doing. Or, some of the best vacations are when somebody else plans it and I just get to show up and be along for the ride. But I can go into producer mode if necessary in real life.
Yeah, I feel that with I do a lot of events for my work and everyone wants me to help plan their events because it's a skill, but I'm like, okay, I gotta draw the line somewhere with this.
Boundaries. Yeah. You got to help keep it so that, you don't burn out and that work still remains some parts of it fun.
100%. Has that ever been a challenge for you, burnout?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, when you're in production in the thick of it, you're working nonstop, you're on at all times. There's always fires popping up that you need to put out left, right, and center. So, I mean, when you're on a big project and you've been going, balls to the wall for a couple months, you need to like come down after that. If you get put on another project right after that or start, prepping another shoot, you can burn out real quick. And I've seen it happen. So I think that generally the good thing about our business is it'll kind of go in waves. Like all my companies have been decently good at, producing one project, take a couple weeks off, regroup, recharge, then come back and start it all again. But, if it's just back to back, it's super easy to crash and burn.
Yeah, I can imagine you would need that downtime. What's your sort of favorite thing to do in your downtime in between projects? Is it like a staycation? Is it a vacation?
I love traveling. I'm fortunate enough to get to travel a lot for work, but it's always more fun, and I don't have to worry about working on the job. So when I can just sightsee and do what I want and not have to be on set at 7 a.m. or whatnot. But I would say traveling or honestly just like rotting on my couch, reading a good book or catching up on reality TV. I have a tradition of every time after we end a shoot, I'll either do some sort of like Korean spa or massage or facial just to relax and reset after, a hectic shoot.
That's definitely the move. I hear you on that. Um,
Yes.
I want to go back in your career a little bit. So it kind of spans across all things. Like you worked for local news, you worked at Disney, you're now at Expedia. It seems like you've progressed fairly rapidly. So do you have any advice for folks like in any industry looking to progress at a rapid rate in their career?
Yeah, I would say something that's always helped me is to whatever industry you're in, learn every facet of your job. Like in news, I had to know how to write, edit, shoot, produce, and even be on camera if necessary. But I think all those skills are so helpful because then when you're trying to talk to, for instance, an editor, I know what I'm actually asking them to do, or I understand their workflow or the equipment that they need because I've had to do it myself. Or, when I'm talking to camera operators or directors about certain equipment that they like or they need, I understand that too, and lenses and packages, and just I understand how to speak the language and how to talk to people, even though that's not necessarily my area of expertise or anything that I'm good at. Like, I'm hiring these people because they're professionals at their job, but I think being able to relate to them on a level and know what they do and respect what they do and know how it plays into the bigger picture is a huge, huge help in any role. I mean, that could be, working at a restaurant, knowing what the hostess does, from the cooks to the line cooks to the servers to the front of house, back of house, just knowing everything about the industry and what everybody does and everybody's part in the machine.
Yeah, so, like, lead with curiosity is kind of what you're saying.
Oh yeah, being inquisitive, I think, is one of the best traits. Like, be curious, learn as much as you can, and learn from everybody. Don't just think because, oh, I want to be a producer, I'm just going to focus on learning from a producer. Learn from everybody, from like graphics, colorists, music composers, music supervisors, anybody that is in that world. Be curious, learn, and ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and I think often people can get stuck in just, like, their day-to-day and lose that curiosity. How do you keep it? How do you keep yourself curious and engaged?
I think I'm always getting inspired by everything around me. I mean, the most obvious would be movies, films, TV shows, other commercials that I'm watching. But like, for instance, a couple months ago, I just saw Challengers with a group of friends. And as soon as we left the film, I was like, oh my God, the score was amazing. I need to go into a deep dive on, how they came up with that, or like the camera shots. I'm like, who shot this? Who was the DP? Let me look into them and go down like a huge rabbit hole of all their work and what they've done, and watching other stuff, or thinking in my head, oh, they could be good for this project I have coming up, or how did they do these special effects? So then I'll be texting my special effects friends or my editor friends, being like, how do you think they did this shot? And just keep getting inspired. Or even if you go to museums or like art exhibits, just looking for inspiration everywhere and thinking how you could apply that to your current job.
That is so cool. I wish I could go to the movies and be like, "Yeah, wait, this could actually applies to my role." I mean, I'm sure there's other that's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes it's bad in the fact that you can't turn it off. So if I see a movie and I'm like, ooh, like that point didn't make sense, or this edit isn't bad, there's no continuity here, I'm like, shut up, brain. I'm just trying to watch this movie and have fun, but I can't.
Yeah, any specialty you have, there is a side where it can get, like, ruined, right, in your day-to-day. So looking back, you've had a long, from my perspective, very successful career. Do you have any or, like, any situations you wish you had handled differently?
I wouldn't say regrets because, everything leads you up to the point where you are now. And if you're not at a point that you're happy with, that just means, you got to keep going and there's something else out there for you. But I always think it's all about perspective. Like, even if it's not the best job, or you're not in the best city, or you don't have the best boss or coworkers, try and spin it so that, okay, this isn't the best job, but I have some awesome coworkers, or I made some great friends, or, my boss might be a little annoying, but like the work I get to do is so cool, or I'm inspired by the creative. So I always try to flip it and see the good side, or find like something small that's good or that makes me happy, even if the overall job as a whole, I'm like, this isn't my dream job, but you can learn something from any person and any job. So I think that's always good to keep an open mind.
Yeah, really well said. Okay, so I have some listener questions for you that I think you'll like.
Mm.
So, for those listening in, perhaps for the first time, if you want to submit a question to one of the folks I interview, just email Bree at careerdiariespodcast.com, BRI at careerdiariespodcast.com, and we'll answer all of your burning career questions. So, this one's from Zach. did you have any mentors along the way in your career? How did they help you? And how do you suggest others seek mentors out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have been lucky enough to have several what I consider mentors in my career, but probably my first one ever was my assistant news director in Albuquerque, New Mexico, of all places. But after he hired me and I had no experience, I was straight out of college. I had a broadcast journalism degree, but had never actually put it to use in the real world. And he just told me, honestly, I'm just looking for good people who are a good fit, like someone that can vibe in the culture that we've built here. And honestly, I know you've had no experience. I can teach you what you need to know, but it's more about like, are you a good person and are you a good fit? And so I've kind of taken that with me in my career as well, even when I'm interviewing directors for a job or whatnot. To me, I'm like, the name, the glitz and glam, the sexiness, sure, it's all great, but are you still a good person? Are you going to be collaborative? Are you going to be someone that fits with my team and vibes with my people? Like, that's all I ask for. I have a strict no asshole policy on my teams.
That's a great policy. I am the same way. You learn that pretty quickly. You'll ruin the whole experience, you know?
And then just like having powerful female figures in the industry, obviously it's on the rise now, and that's amazing. But finding female executive producers early on in my career that I really admired and respected, I kind of just glommed on to them and was like, please help me, or, take me under your wing, or just trying to get projects with them so that I could learn from them. So find someone who you admire or who inspires you and, kind of just attach yourself to them or like get as in close proximity to them as you can.
Yeah, it's really good advice. So this is from Natalie. How do you stay in the know about cutting edge areas of your field? Always looking for ways I can be on top of my profession.
Yeah, kind of what we already touched on, like watching movies or ads or TV shows and then just getting curious and inspired and then going down, an IMDb rabbit hole or a Reddit rabbit hole about how they did everything. And also, of course, like reading the trades like Adage and um, looking at like Variety or, any kind of the trade magazines and keeping up with technology, I think is also super important in this day and age too, whether it's like AI, Chat GPT, SOAR. I know people in the film industry are a little worried, like, oh no, AI, the robots, everybody's coming for our jobs. But I honestly think as of right now, it's just they don't have that personal touch or quality, but thinking of interesting ways that we could use them in our industry. So just staying on top of technology and like how it could benefit you and your whatever industry you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% there. And I think, again, it's about keeping that curiosity. That's sort of my main takeaway from this conversation is like, get inspired by
Stay
the real,
curious.
stay curious. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fun chatting with you. Again, I've never interviewed someone in your profession, so it's like I could ask you questions all day, but I know you have a busy day to get back to, so I'll let you.
Thanks for listening to the Career Diaries podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review to help get word out about the show. Email Bree at careerdiariespodcast.com with your burning career questions to get them answered on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss another conversation.